If you've been told that you need to buy a light box to take good Etsy listing photos, then I'm about to save you money and show you why these boxes actually, to put it frankly, suck. Let me explain. If you're new to joining us, this is part 3 in my series of Etsy listing photos. You don't have to watch the other 2 before this one to have this make any sense, but go ahead and open that playlist link in a new tab to check them out when we're done here. Because you'll learn more about the positive side of what you should do and less about me being a little bit cranky towards buying a bunch of extra stuff that you don't need, which is slightly what this video is about. But real quick, for context, why am I cranky? Well, I've been a professional photographer for the last 14 years, and I have seen a lot of solo makers and artists fall prey to being sold a bunch of stuff that they don't really need. So today, I'm here to save you some money and have an honest conversation about the cons and the just the cons of all of those product light boxes. So what's a product light box? If this is a new term for you, I bet this picture is not new to you. It gets marketed to all of us all the time. This thing. Now, I'm not going to leave you hanging by telling you what not to do without giving you an alternative solution. So I do have a free product photography foundations guide in the description of this video that you can download. Now, this free PDF guide will walk you step by step through exactly what I do to take fast photos of our ceramics. And if you don't believe me, there's an entire video on the behind the scenes of me taking pictures of ceramics that you can check out in this link. But first, these pesky light boxes that are probably collecting dust in your closet as we speak. Let's start with the biggest issue that I see with product photo boxes or light boxes. I'm gonna use that term interchangeably. To put it really cheesily, they box you in. Literally. I mean, the pun was right there. I just had to take it. Most of these boxes are about 24 inches wide, which sounds reasonable until you realize just how limiting that actually is. Sure, if you're making bud vases right now, that might give you plenty of room, but what happens as soon as you make your first wide serving bowl? If the bowl itself is, say, 10 inches wide, now you're left with only half the space of the box to put in anything in terms of props or styling elements that will actually help you sell this beautiful new bowl. Now, ironically, many of the backdrops I use for my own photos are actually only 24 by 24 inches in size. However, since nothing is actually in a box, I have no sides or roof around me, I have more flexibility to be able to use my hands as props without getting weird. I can stand on the side and interact with a piece as close to normal as possible when it comes to photography, rather than trying to reach into the box and then my body is in the way of the camera, and then you get this weird long arm thing in the front, and you're back to being frustrated and you hate taking photos of your work. Also, maybe every once in a while you do have a bigger item than what you usually make and photograph within that 24-inch box. Now, if you've watched my previous video on Etsy listing photos, you already know that my solutions are rarely about spending more time on editing to solve issues. But let's just go down a hypothetical for a minute. Hypothetically speaking, I only have smaller size backdrops at my disposal, and I really need this photo of a larger vase finished ASAP. If I take it inside of a light box, we've established that there's sides and a roof to the thing. It is a box without a front. So if I try to squeeze a bigger or taller item into it, or a wider item, whatever dimension, I might start hitting the edges of this box. Now, most of them are flexible, so the sides are going to bend. Maybe you're pushing up the roof of it a little bit. Who knows? It creates a lot of extra lines and angles. And when you try to use something like Photoshop or the AI in Canva or whatever other program to replace the background or extend it, you are going to be in for a lot more work because the box has bent and created all these extra lines and all this stuff has changed. Now, if I use a simple vertical backdrop, that's still 24 by 24 inches in dimension, but there's no edges and there's no roof, then I can extend that background way easier. Where there's only one clean line that intersects with maybe the top of my vase because it wasn't tall enough for it, that's a lot easier for the AI robots to figure out how to correct and to extend the background for you. So even though I'm kind of breaking with my tradition here and talking about a solution that involves editing, the problem is still going to be solved a lot faster. Not to mention, if I'm not using a box, I could simply have a larger size backdrop to use on the rare occasion that I'm making bigger size pieces. But the entire rest of my setup, namely the lighting, would still be the same. Speaking of lighting, let's talk about something that the ads for these light boxes aren't telling you. They pitch ease and simplicity, when in reality, these light boxes often require more complex lighting to look good, not less. Most boxes come with cheap LED strips or panels. They're generally not very big and they're generally not very powerful, if they come with the box at all. And when it comes to lighting, well, size matters. In order to get the work inside of the box to look natural, you have to set up not one light, but multiple lights. Maybe you find out that the included lights aren't actually strong enough and you have to buy more. Now your cheap light box solution is actually costing you a couple of $100s while you buy lights that you aren't entirely confident in using. And when photography already has a lot of variables that you're trying to control, having 3 lights to try and figure out what to do with instead of just one, well, it's downright overwhelming. It's like trying to bake an illusions showstopper cake for the Great British Bake Off when you have never actually tried to make a set of chocolate chip cookies. A batch of chocolate chip cookies. The point is, let's get really comfortable with the basics before we jump straight into the complicated. All right? We're going to be able to troubleshoot a lot faster this way and get you the photos you want a lot faster this way. Not to mention, let's get really comfortable with some free solutions like Windows before we spend a few $100s on equipment that we don't actually know how to use. I feel like this shouldn't take a lot to convince you. Now, I jokingly said that size matters when it comes to lighting, and I hope that we all giggled like 13-year-olds, but it is actually true. And that's exactly why I have my students start out with a window light to get comfortable. Number one, a window is typically significantly larger than a lot of the artwork people make. Number two, it's free and available to you. And even if you're saying you don't have any good windows, well, you probably have a door, or maybe you have a garage with a garage door you can open up. All of these work the same. Number three, though, it's much easier to understand where the light is coming from. Now, I want you to be sure to download that free Product Photography Foundations guide in the description of this video, because you're going to see how crucial the angle of light is in creating consistent professional photos of your work. That's what I'm talking about when I say seeing where the light is coming from. Not only does the correct angle of light help capture accurate glaze colors for your work, it can also show off any texture or surface design that you've put so much time into as well. Also, slightly adjusting the angle of light can often be the fastest solution to minimizing glare. So there's a lot going on here. Just go download the guide. I'm going to keep going on these pesky light boxes. So, learning to see the angle of light can be really difficult. And doubly or triply, if that's a word, hard if you have 2 or 3 lights. Now, when you start with a window, you can take a piece of string and physically draw a line from the window to your art and from your art to the camera to very clearly see what angle you're photographing at. You can test out different angles to learn what works best for your unique work. And then you can use that angle again, over and over and over, no matter where you're photographing. Your home, your studio, if you're on vacation, it will work every time. But it's a lot easier to learn with just one light. But let's get back to why light boxes are a waste of money. if you're taking these photos at least specifically to sell your work online in places like Etsy. Here's the biggest issue with photo boxes. They strip away all context from your work. And context is what sells. When someone's browsing Etsy, they're not just buying an object, they're buying a feeling, a lifestyle, an aesthetic for their home, a solution to a problem. A plain white background doesn't tell any of those stories. Now, our last video talked all about this and the sales psychology around the importance of telling a story with your photos. So I won't ramble on too long about that side of things. You can go watch that video after this. Instead, let's think about the pragmatic side of setting up this light box with something other than the included plain white or black or solid color backgrounds that they probably send with it. If you're being savvy about sourcing affordable backdrop options, like we've talked about before and like so many of my students do, then you might be grabbing some samples of surfaces at kitchen supply stores or Kling-on fake tile from places like Home Depot or Lowe's. Well, now you have to make sure that whatever you're getting will fit into the box and fit in a way that has the background perfectly flat, not wrinkled up in a corner or crunched over here where then you have even more to edit to get rid of in the background. Maybe for props, you've found an awesome piece of driftwood, or you went thrift shopping and found something perfect for your style, or you hand dyed your own fabric. Setting any of these things that are going to be unique to you and your brand and your vibe, setting them up on an open tabletop surface is exponentially easier than trying to get them to fit into a box. Especially if then you need to worry about the intersections of, say, the handles of your mugs with the props in the background, or a million other things we talked about in some of those other past videos. I know this all sounds silly, and it might not sound like a huge deal because you're thinking, it's just a box, Rebecca, I can make it work. But be real with me. If you hate the idea of having to take photos of your work, and then you find yourself fighting with trying to get a prop or a background surface into a box, even for just 5 or 10 minutes, are you really going to have that much energy left to put towards creatively thinking about how to make these photos look great? Or are you going to wind up pulling out your hair, giving up, and once again not posting any photos online to promote a recent local market that you're going to be showing your work at? Do tell. I know what you're thinking, but Rebecca, I don't have any good window light. My studio is in my basement. I can't do what you're saying. And I hear you. And I raise you, Jessica, an Ohio-based potter who works in her basement without a light box. Now, yes, Jessica is using a video light to take these photos. And actually, truth be told, when we first started working together, she was using a workman's lamp from a good old trusty home goods store like Lowe's or Home Depot, which is also significantly cheaper than a light box. And that workman's lamp served her for a very long time. She's done everything I say to do with a window, but instead with one constant or video light. Now, the workman's lamp got her pretty far for a while, but switching over to a full-fledged video light recently definitely gave her more flexibility. The point is here, though, it's still not a light box. And her photos have so much more character, specific to the audience that Jessica wants to sell her pottery to. She creates pots that speak to a very specific niche that is Midwestern nostalgia. Now, if you've never spent any time in the Midwest, then this might not make total sense to you, but as a fellow Midwesterner, a wood-paneled wall in a basement is packed with all kinds of memories and feelings and nostalgia. But by not using a light box, Jessica can change up this very specific look depending on the seasons, on her glaze colors, to make sure that the work looks its best. And yes, she did take our Maker's Photography Styling System course, where we talk all about the color theory involved in why she might choose to use the darker wood versus lighter wood at different times. It also means that she can more easily change up the look of her photos for the seasons, as so many of her pieces are connected with her very own backyard garden. moody luminaries for the chilly winter, spunky colors for donut vases in the summer. Technically speaking, her entire system for taking photos stays the same, even though she's creating dramatically different settings. Putting this succinctly, you just can't play around like this with a light box. You waste more time fighting the equipment that was supposed to solve your problems than actually taking photos that you're proud of. But here's the actual tough love part of all of this. The part where I might sound a little bit like a jerk. Just a little. The point of this all, the solution to taking better photos faster, isn't buying a piece of equipment that promises to solve all of your issues. The actual solution is taking the time to learn what's happening with your camera or your cell phone and taking control of the situation yourself. Now, this isn't as fast as the solutions the companies selling all this equipment are going to promise you. But if you've already bought a light box, like many of the people I hear in my inbox, and are frustrated, then you know that fast promise, well, it wasn't really honest. So while this might be tough love, at least I'm being honest. Yeah, it does take a little bit of time to learn. But with the right guidance, hello, it takes a lot less time. And the best part, once you understand what's actually happening, you will be in control. You'll be able to tell the camera exactly what you actually want a photo of and how you want it to look. And you'll be able to do so in less time than that goofy light box was ever going to save you. I promise. If the idea of not spending more money on equipment you don't really know how to use anyways sounds comforting, then start out with downloading my free Product Photography Foundations Guide at the link in the top of this description. Now, of course, there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to taking better photos faster. And yes, I am here to say you can do it using what you already have available to you, even if it's just your cell phone. So be sure you've liked this video and subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on more quick and easy to implement tips. If this video has spurred another question on how you can take better listing photos for selling your work online, then drop that question in the comments below so I know how I can be most helpful in the future. In the meantime, be sure you check out this entire series on Etsy listing photos by clicking over here somewhere. Until next time, my friends, go get back to making your dreams a reality, because together we've got this.